Hi everyone, hope you're well. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I don't usually put that little promo at the start, but maybe I should more often. I've now got 2,400 subscribers, and I'm grateful for everyone. So my channel's growing gradually. Still a small channel, but it is growing, and I'm grateful for every single subscriber. Um, Even though most videos average about between 50 to 100 views, this is not a viral channel, but occasionally some of my videos get traction. And I've been doing this for quite a while now. Um, I've been looking at X tonight, my X account. Now, I'm not a fan of Elon Musk. I don't use X very often, but maybe I will more. Um, and maybe I'll think about utilizing whatever tools are possible to maybe, share the videos I make on this channel onto my X account, something like that. I need to look into it. It isn't a big priority right now, but it is just one way of, furthering my outreach. Um, I'm going to talk about, let's see here. I'm going to talk about, is that still recording? Yeah, it's still recording. I was just checking if I could open another page whilst this was recording, so that's interesting. Yeah, I'm going to talk about a case that I was somewhat familiar with a while back. There's been an update on it. Um, it's about a conspiracy theorist in the UK who was harassing a man and his daughter, who were survivors of the Manchester Arena bombing. Now, before I get into this particular story, um, I should explain my take on conspiracy theorists in general. I've known a few. Um, I have no problem with people questioning power. I've got no problem with people having different opinions on a given subject. And I think it is open minded, even healthy, to sometimes think outside the box. Go along with all of that. My big problem, though, with dogged conspiracy theorists is, well, I have a few problems with them. Firstly, they're arrogant. They think that the rest of us are ignorant sheep. They somehow know the truth, and everyone else is idiots. We're all brainwashed by the government or Bill Gates or whatever particular strand of conspiracy they go down. We're all idiots. Um, all mainstream media is lies, and the world you think you're in is not the world you're in. It's a matrix, not literally, but that is the narrative that they take. And there is no critical thinking. There's no introspection. So they accuse others of, just believing mainstream media sources or other media sources, but they never question their own sources if it confirms whatever conspiracy they want to believe. They never stop back, they never step back a little bit and think, is this really rational? Is this really sensible? And they go deeper and deeper into that rabbit hole, and it doesn't matter what facts are pointed out to them, because no matter what you show them, they will just have a whataboutery, or they'll provide some alternative. There's a very contrarian nature to the way conspiracy theorists think. That is to say, they just it's almost like they just want to disagree for the sake of it. Um, and in the worst case scenarios, it can actually be quite dangerous. Um, Not only in terms of inciting disinformation, we've seen that from the summer's riots. A lot of that was brought about by fake information about the perpetrators of the Southport attack. Um, but we've also seen the callousness of conspiracy theorists in the United States, and I think this is very similar to the case I'm going to mention here. After mass shootings, particularly Sandy Hook, there are despicable people like Alex Jones. He's probably the most famous, but there are others who will actually harass survivors of these attacks and call them crisis actors, like they're paid to look traumatized and stuff like this. I find that beneath contempt. I find that utterly disgusting. So not only are these people, I'm talking about the survivors, having to deal with a traumatic situation in the first place, a situation none of us would ever want to be in, then they have to deal with idiots regurgitating lies about them and smearing them as somehow making up. It is, I just find that reprehensible, and that's the kind of way to put it. I think they're despicable. I do think there should be legal action against them for harassment. Um, you know, Going to someone's home is not free speech. Lying about someone is not free speech, or it's an abuse of free speech, rather. So yeah, I don't think much of that sort of conspiracy theories at all. And the person I'm going to talk about here is very much falls into that category. So with that being said, I'll read out the report from the Metro. This is by Danny Rigg, and it's October the 24th. Victory for survivors against writer who says there was no arena bomb. Two survivors of the Manchester Arena bombing have won their High Court harassment claim against a former TV producer who made allegations that the deadly attack was staged. Martin Hibbert and his teenage daughter Eve suffered life-changing injuries in the terror attack that killed 22 people and injured hundreds of others as they left an Ariana Grande concert in May 2017. Mr. Hibbert was left with a spinal cord injury, and his daughter suffered a catastrophic brain injury after a bolt from the bomb struck her in the head. But Mr. Hall claimed in several videos and a book that the attack was staged. He claimed his actions, which included filming Eve outside her home, which is plain harassment, obviously, were in the public interest as a journalist, and millions of people have bought a lie about the atrocity. Mr. Hall told a trial in July, primary evidence shows there was no bomb in that room that exploded. But ruling in the Hibbert's favour, Mrs. Justice Stein said there was a powerful evidence that Mr. Hall's course of conduct caused Mr. Hibbert to suffer alarm, distress, and anxiety. She added Mr. Hall's publications are not only false, but they also lacked any semblance of balance. Recounting the blast, the Hibbert's barrister Jonathan Price told the trial Martin, paralysed, saw Eve lying next to him with a hole in her head and assumed he was watching her die, unable to help. He saw others lying dead or injured around him. Mr. Hall claimed the attack by suicide bomber Salman Abedi was staged by government agencies. He said several of the victims killed were living abroad at the time or had died previously. After the verdict, Mr. Hibbert, who had attended the trial in a wheelchair, called it a comprehensive victory. Um, I actually contacted Mr. Hibbert after a panorama program was made. I kind of felt compelled to just to offer my support, just voice my words of support, because I think it is reprehensible what he and sort of had to go through. And he acknowledged that. I'm pleased to say he thanked me for the support. And I said at the time, I hope he wins the case, and he has. Now, there's no word here of what sort of consequences Hall's going to face. I hope he gets a restraining order, and I hope he gets a hefty fine as well. Not that it should be about money, but I don't think that it could be deemed to be journalism or free speech to harass people that way, especially when it's lies cooked up in the mind of conspiracy land. The idea that the Manchester Arena bombing was an inside job, it's baseless. It really is baseless. You push conspiracy theorists on their claims. They won't answer questions, they'll just ask more questions. That's the way they operate. They're evasive, they're contrarian for the sake of it. And they don't actually follow their own rules. In fact, one of my subscribers pointed this out. Apologies, I can't remember off the top of my head who said that, but I was discussing this issue before. And one of my subscribers aptly pointed out that they don't actually follow their own preaching. They talk about being objective and seeing the light, but they're not objective. They don't look at critical thinking at all. They will just dig deeper and deeper and deeper. If a conspiracy theorist was to get some information that was actually more mainstream and going along with the official line, they would just say it's fake. They wouldn't consider that. They wouldn't even consider it, right? I'm not saying that they have to believe it, but they wouldn't even consider it. So these people are not objective. They're not open-minded at all. And like I say, I think they're arrogant because they seem to somehow think that they have this crystal ball where they know something that the rest of us don't. Now, to be fair, some of them do start to see the light. There was a guy it's called Brent Lee. I'm really not that familiar with him. I only came across him tonight, actually. Was looking on X for some stuff on this story, further information, and he is a former conspiracy theorist who, as he put it, came out of the rabbit hole and is now a debunker. And because of that, because he's trying to now be more objective and reveal how dangerous this can be, he's been labelled a conspiracy. I mean, you cannot reason with these people. I think it is quite a dangerous thing. I think it's cult-like. I think it's a little bit frightening actually that people could be so so taken in with this stuff. I think disinformation online is a massive problem. And that's why I have contempt for Elon Musk because, and that might be hypocritical because I'm using the platform that he heads, but there is a problem. He posted a picture earlier, which was a fake photo saying illegal immigrants for harass. Now, Musk has 200 million followers. Some of them will take that in. That's why disinformation is dangerous. People have been talking about, and I don't want to go off the relevant another subject here, but people have been talking about the wife of the Tory councillor who has got a custodial sentence for her tweets on her social media posts. I don't know if it was X or Facebook, but regardless, she was calling for a mosque to burn down during the riots. And a lot of people have been jumping on that and saying, oh, it's too harsh, it's too tier care. Um, and even Toby Young of the Free Speech Union says, oh, this is an example of two-tier justice and she shouldn't be punished for what he describes as a brain fart, i.e. being foolish. But the thing is, she showed no remorse for that, no real remorse. Because in further media communications, she said if she was apprehended, she would just pretend to have mental health issues. She has no remorse, no real remorse. I mean, there is an old adage, you don't shout fire in a crowded theatre. That's just common sense. I certainly don't think she should get the same sort of sentence as someone who's actually setting fire or attacking someone, but I take issue with this idea that it is completely harmless. She apparently has 120,000 followers. No, it was more. In fact, it was 300,000. I think was the figure. But point there is when you have that many followers and you're advocating violence, some of them may well take it up. I mean, those people who were rioting in the summer, they didn't just wake up one day and say, "Oh, I'm going to do this." They had influence, and whilst they are primarily responsible for their own actions, people like her fueled it. So I think it's right that she's punished. I think it's ridiculous for Toby Young to suggest that it's harmless, that it's just a trivial thing, that she was just a bit foolish. Um, you don't yell fire in a crowded theatre, and if you're inciting violence, there is real world consequences for that. Should it be a prison sentence? Maybe not. Maybe it would be better to be a community sentence. But I don't think it's harmless. I certainly don't think she should get away with it. Um, because she knew the situation in the country. She knew there was violence going on. The same applies to other people who were calling for mosques to be burned down and hotels of migrants in them to be burned down. That was a direct incitement of violence. That's an abuse of free speech. So I don't agree with free speech absolutists who think that conspiracy theorists or people inciting violence should just have a green light to say whatever the hell they want. Um, in an ordered society, there are rules. You can't make false allegations against someone because it's libelous, and there's a reason for that. Um, say someone is falsely accused of a very serious crime, like being a paedophile, that directly puts them in danger. We've seen cases where innocent people have had a mob coming after them because of false rumors. So I I think that expression should be as broad-reaching as possible. But in this case, I would also say, what the hell qualifies Hall as a journalist? I mean, he calls himself a journalist. I'd like to see his press pass. Um, it's the fact that Martin Hibbert and his family have had to put up with that. And he's not the only one. Richard Hall's not the only one. There's a group called I think they call themselves Irish something against crisis actors, and they go around spreading this crap as well. They've done that in the Republic of Ireland. I find it disgusting. So in conclusion, I'm not saying that people can't ask questions of power. I've often done it myself. I've often criticised institutions. Um, that's healthy. That's a democratic right. People can dissent. People can ask questions. But actually sink to the depth of harassing survivors of a terrorist attack. That's to me utterly reprehensible. Utterly reprehensible. And I do think Hall should face some sort of consequences. Definitely a restraining order. I think he should be legally prevented from talking about Mr. Hibbert or his family again. And if he does, then the sentence should increase. Um, it should be, send out a message that this isn't okay. This isn't investigative journalism. This isn't merely asking questions. It is crossing a line into harassment. Anyway, I'll wrap this up, but feel quite strongly about it. But Martin Hibbert's been an inspiration, and despite everything he's been through, he's actually done fundraisers. For example, I believe he, if I've got this right, he's funded an expedition to Kilimanjaro to raise money, and he's also hoping to make this legal case to bring in legislation in the name of his daughter against this sort of thing, against this particular type of harassment. And I wish him all the best with that. Martin Hibbert, in the off chance that you see this, Godspeed. I think you're an inspiration. Um, and stay strong.